Political commentator Errol Lewis and CNN politics reporter Tom LoBianco. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us. So, Errol, let me ask you, the repeal and replace of Obamacare was supposed to be the first thing they did, and it was to set the stage for tax reform, for infrastructure. So if the president didn't get it repealed and he is waiting for Obamacare to explode, how then do you set a budget and tax reform? How do you move forward if you don't have solid numbers?
It's a great question, because if you can't do repeal and replace, which is roughly 1/6 of the economy, and then you decide you're going to move on to tax reform, well, that's 6/6. That's 100% of the economy. That's every interest group. That's not just a handful of powerful interest groups. So he has certainly got his work cut out for him. Now, fortunately, in a way that's maybe a little bit more straightforward than with healthcare reform. What the administration promised during the campaign is very specific, to have basically 3 tax brackets down from 7, to cut the business tax rate down to 15%. He really made some very specific promises that presumably Congress can act on. Time, of course, is short. It's going to be very, very tough. For every line of code in that very complex tax code, there's a lobbyist or an interest group behind it. So he's got his work cut out for him. Healthcare, I think, has got to be something that they don't want to repeat. So we'll see if they can do a little bit better next time.
Mm-hmm. So, Tom, let's listen to how Vice President Pence characterized Donald Trump's handling of the healthcare fiasco.
We all know the truth about this failed law, that every day Obamacare survives is another day that America suffers. That's why the president worked tirelessly over the last several weeks to get Congress to repeal and replace Obamacare. You saw his resolve to work with whoever he needed to work with, to call whoever he needed to call to get our plan across the finish line this week on Capitol Hill. I got to tell you, I was inspired by President Trump's determination and commitment to keep his promise to the American people.
We did see him just days before going to talk to House members himself personally. There were a lot of closed-door meetings. How might he deal now, though, with tax reform in a different way? What has he learned, let's say, from the way he negotiated Obamacare and or the AHCA, I should say, and how he will negotiate tax reform? Will he be even more hands-on, less delegation?
Well, it sounds like right now he's still kind of licking his wounds a little bit. Sounds, based on our White House team's reporting yesterday, it sounds like he might have been out on the golf course a little bit. And, it's hard to say exactly what he would do differently at this point. One thing that he did, which was very different than what President Barack Obama did, was that personal lobbying. But the problem is everything that we heard coming out of those meetings is that he didn't understand the details, that he had a take it or leave it approach. He was not involved in the nitty-gritty of this. That's not how you build these long-term relationships that get you to places on big items like tax reform and health care reform. I mean, those are both monster bites. These are not small items that we're talking about here. The other thing that you have to consider, too, is you got to get all your stakeholders around. I mean, this is just basic legislating. Okay, so you can't have the Heritage Foundation, you can't have the Koch brothers coming out against you and lining up and, threatening to throw money at opponents in primaries. Because, you got to remember, the people that you're working with here are facing re-election for their jobs in a year and a half from now. All right, their campaigns are happening as we speak. So there's a lot you got to readjust. You got to recalibrate, and you got to just go back to the drawing board, as Pence said, and just overhaul the way you did things before.
All righty, Errol Lewis, Tom LoBianco, always grateful to have you on board. Thank you.
Thank you.